What's good, fam? This is the story of how Trevor Noah showed the entire world that the beef between Kendrick and Drake is a permanent mark on the boys' reputation. Celebrities are still using that beef for punchlines years later. On February 1st of 2026, the 68th annual Grammy Awards turned into a total disaster for Drake when Noah took the stage and reminded every single person how Kendrick Lamar destroyed the biggest pop star in the industry. Trevor Noah chose total violence during that speech, and he delivered a roast so cold that the entire room was looking at Drake's empty seat with nothing but pity. The whole thing blew up viral instantly because Noah wasn't just playing around with light jokes, but he was actually digging into the same wounds Kendrick opened up back in 2024. He mocked the light-skin status and the international background while standing right next to a smiling Kendrick Lamar, and that's when the whole thing felt like a real cultural moment. This wasn't the usual award show talk we see every year, but here's the thing, it actually felt like proof that the rap game has turned into real detective work where destroying a reputation is the new standard. Kendrick sat there laughing his soul out at every single joke, and that meant he was taking the ultimate victory lap in front of every major player while Drake stayed home to avoid the smoke. The energy in the building felt electric because everyone knew they were seeing a shift in the power structure that nobody can ignore anymore. The part that really broke the internet happened when Trevor Noah looked straight into the lens. He dropped a line that is going to follow the OVO camp for the rest of their lives. He told the audience that he remembered what Kendrick can do to light-skinned dudes from other countries, and that served as a direct shot at Drake's biracial identity and those Canadian roots that Kendrick attacked so hard during the beef. Noah joked that his own group of light-skinned men is still trying to recover from the mental struggle Kendrick caused during that legendary 2024 and 2025 beef cycle, which made it clear the damage wasn't just a social media trend. This commentary really showed how Kendrick doesn't just diss rappers in a normal way, but he actually goes out of his way to ruin their standing through deep research that looks more like a federal investigation than a song. While the crowd was losing it over the Drake shots, Kendrick had a much more serious reaction when the jokes touched on deeper industry issues involving names like Diddy and 50 Cent. It proves that Dot is playing a much bigger game where he cares about the future of the culture, while Drake has just become a punchline for a comedian on a trophy night. Drake's choice to skip the 2026 ceremony turned the whole roast into a one-sided beatdown on national television. It proved that if you don't show up to defend yourself, the world is just going to keep laughing at your expense. These receipts that Trevor Noah brought up show that the industry has completely picked a side, and that side is wearing a crown that definitely didn't come from Toronto. The way Noah framed the conflict as an evolution of hip-hop into mental warfare proves that Kendrick changed the rules forever. We used to talk about who had the hardest bars or the most streams, but now we are talking about who has the cleanest record and the most integrity. Drake serving as the target of these jokes on the biggest stage in music suggests that his time as a protected industry favorite is officially over. Everyone in that room watched Kendrick Lamar laugh at his rival's expense, and it felt like the final nail in the coffin for any idea that Drake won that battle. Noah's timing worked perfectly because he waited until the most high-profile night of the year to remind everyone that Drake's international image is actually a weakness in a real rap war. By bringing up the fact that Drake is from another country, Noah tapped into that same energy Kendrick used when he called Drake a colonizer instead of a colleague. The reaction from the audience felt very telling because not a single person looked uncomfortable or offended for Drake, and that shows the OVO defense squad has completely disappeared from the industry. Even the executives and the stars who used to beg for a Drake feature were seen nodding along to the jokes, which means it is a cold reality for a man who used to run the charts. Trevor Noah might be a comedian, but he just gave a status report on the rap game that confirmed Kendrick Lamar is the king. Drake has become the jester that everyone is tired of hearing from. We are about to see how Kendrick officially took that throne from Jay-Z later that night, so tell me if Trevor Noah went too far with those light-skinned jokes. Maybe Drake just received exactly what he deserved for ducking the ceremony, and I need you to drop your thoughts in the comments, because I want to know how y'all feel about this no cap. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel while we keep this energy going. What we witnessed at the 2026 Grammys involved more than just a few roasts, because it represented the total institutional validation of Kendrick's movement and a complete rejection of Drake's whole pop rap era. Every time Trevor Noah landed a punchline, it felt like he pulled another brick out of the wall Drake spent his whole career building. Kendrick sat right there in the front row to witness the whole thing while he prepared to make history, and that created a contrast that felt even more painful for the Toronto rapper. Drake is probably at home posting those cryptic messages on his story right now. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is at the party celebrating his downfall and watching Kendrick ascend. This is exactly what happens when you try to play chess with a man who is willing to flip the entire board and show your secrets to the world. Trevor Noah basically provided the soundtrack to the funeral, and everyone was invited. You have to look back at the absolute massacre that went down during the 67th Grammys on February 2nd, 2025, to understand why Trevor Noah felt so comfortable choosing violence in 2026. That night stood as a total destruction of Drake's standing in this industry because Kendrick Lamar pulled off a historic 5-category clean sweep that left the OVO camp in total shambles. Not Like Us did not just win a couple of rap awards because it actually took home Record of the Year and Song of the Year along with Best Rap Performance and Best Rap Song. It even grabbed Best Music Video all in one sitting, which signaled a massive change in the culture. Not Like Us became only the second rap song in the entire history of the Grammy Awards to win Record of the Year, and that is a feat only achieved once before by Childish Gambino back in 2019. The sight of Beyonce and Taylor Swift dancing to a Drake diss track inside the Crypto.com arena while Kendrick accepted his trophies stood as the most disrespectful thing I have ever seen on a live broadcast. It sent a global signal that the biggest names in music officially sided with the West Coast King while Drake received the treatment of a ghost. Kendrick's acceptance speech that night provided a perfect display of psychological warfare because he dedicated the entire victory to Los Angeles and Dr. Dre while completely ignoring that Drake even existed. He did not need to mention his rival's name because the music had already performed the work of removing Drake from the conversation of greatness forever. The result involved a complete erasure of the boy's legacy on the biggest stage imaginable, and the Recording Academy told the world they valued Kendrick's pen over Drake's entire catalog. Before we get into how Kendrick officially snatched the crown from every legend in the game, let me know if y'all think the Academy was foul for erasing Drake's whole legacy in one night. Drop your thoughts in the comments and keep it a buck, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button while you're at it. Now let's see how Kendrick turned that destruction into a full-blown coronation. If 2025 stood as the destruction, then February 1st, 2026 served as the official coronation of the new king of hip-hop. Kendrick Lamar reached 27 career Grammy wins during that ceremony, and that officially meant he surpassed Jay-Z as the most awarded rapper in the history of the music industry. This is the kind of respect from the establishment that Drake has been chasing since he first stepped on the scene, but it looks like he will never touch these heights. He stays too busy fighting with the culture instead of actually contributing to it, and the results speak for themselves. Lamar won Record of the Year again for his masterpiece, Luther featuring Caesar, and that made him the first rapper ever to win that specific award in back-to-back years. His album, GNX, also secured the Best Rap Album trophy, and that solidified his total dominance over the 2026 award cycle while leaving zero room for debate. The contrast between Kendrick standing there with 27 trophies and Drake's continued tension with the Recording Academy could not have been more obvious to everyone watching. Drake has been ducking the Grammys and pretending like these awards do not matter, but everyone knows it is just a desperate cope because he cannot handle being outperformed by real talent. The validation of Kendrick by the industry gatekeepers served as the final nail in the coffin for Drake's narrative as the commercial king. Kendrick is now outperforming him on the charts and in the history books, and that leaves Drake in the rearview mirror like a bad memory from a decade ago. The industry bosses have clearly picked a side by backing Kendrick as the definitive voice of this generation, leaving Drake to look like a fossil from a streaming era that is finally drying up. Seeing Kendrick stack up 27 wins by the age of 38 is enough to make any other rapper quit, especially since it proves he is still operating at his peak with no intention of slowing down. Passing Jay-Z on that list marks the biggest flex possible because Hov was always considered the untouchable standard for longevity and real power in this business. Kendrick snatched that crown while staying completely unapologetic and disrespectful, showing everyone that you do not need to suck up to corporations to win at the highest level. While Drake keeps cycling through these weird rebrands like the Iceman to try and save his image, the actual music world has already packed up and moved on without him. The Recording Academy does not just hand out trophies for the fun of it, they give them to the artists who actually define the culture, and they have decided Kendrick is the only one who matters right now. Those wins for GNX and Luther prove Kendrick can dominate any lane he wants, from a vicious diss track to a soulful record, while Drake is out here failing to find a single song that actually sticks. Everything that happened at the 2026 Grammys sent a loud message that the industry is done with pop star rappers and wants real lyricists back at the front. This victory lap for Kendrick is about more than just a beef. It is a complete takeover of the history books that Drake will never have enough pen power to rewrite. Drake skipping out on the 2025 and 2026 Grammys was not some random scheduling issue. It was a silent admission that he knows he is no longer welcome at the summit. For a superstar who used to beg for validation from every corner of the game, missing the biggest night in music 2 years straight shows a level of isolation that is impossible to hide. Being completely cut off from the establishment proves that he has burned every bridge he had with the legends, and now he has to sit back and watch the party from the sidewalk. Kendrick stands inside getting hugged by the Academy and celebrated by every heavy hitter in the building, while Drake is hiding in an exile that looks a lot more like a surrender than a protest. This loneliness is exactly what happens when the culture finally decides that actual skill and integrity matter more than fake playlists and industry muscle. People are looking at this Iceman rebrand and those weird social media warnings as nothing but a massive cope because he cannot handle Kendrick's success with the institutions. It is honestly funny to watch a guy who spent his whole life trying to be the most likable person in the world suddenly act all cold and mysterious the second he loses a fair fight. When he talks about coming back to reclaim his spot, it sounds like the desperate words of a man who knows his time in the sun is finally setting. Kendrick is out here collecting real hardware and shattering records that have stood for decades, while Drake is just posting moody selfies from the back of a private jet. This represents just a weak attempt to fix a narrative that he already lost in public, and no amount of rebranding is going to change the fact that the culture wants an authentic voice now. The roast from Trevor Noah felt like the final stamp on the fact that Kendrick did not just win a beef, he officially won the history books. Once a mainstream host gets the whole world laughing at your background on national television, you know your status as a protected industry darling is officially over. That laughter from the audience was a signal that nobody is scared of Drake's influence anymore, and people are finally comfortable saying they prefer the substance Kendrick provides. This conflict was never just about some diss records. It was about who gets to define hip-hop for the next generation, and Kendrick's run proves that the fans really want something real. Kendrick grabbing that Record of the Year trophy stands as the most savage moment in Grammy history. He used a straight-up diss track to reach a level of prestige Drake will never touch. Most rappers go their whole lives without even getting a nod in that category. The industry elites were forced to deliver the gold for a record meant to dismantle his rival's soul. Pulling off those back-to-back wins represents the ultimate flex. Results like this prove that Kendrick can stay the most lyrical person on the planet while holding the biggest song in the world. That whole commercial king narrative Drake has been pushing is officially dead. Kendrick is outperforming him on the charts and in the trophy room at the exact same time. This looks like the final score of a war Drake thought he could win with numbers. Drake finally realized that Kendrick is the one holding the actual keys to the kingdom. Now the boy is stuck at home watching the clock while Kendrick stays busy making sure nobody ever forgets who the real king of this era is. The entire history of hip-hop has been rewritten right in front of us, and Drake's name is nowhere near the top of the list.